Hey guys, if you've never been to this channel before, my name is Ryan Rice. I am going to start a playlist called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Kayak Fishing. I want to talk to you guys out there about kayak fishing. I'm not going to script this. I'm going to probably do maybe 2 or 3 topics per episode and maybe keep it to about 5 episodes because there's a lot to cover with kayak fishing. I'm not going to follow a list. I'm just going to go off the top of my head because I feel like that's more of an honest opinion, honest review, whatever you want to call it, when it comes down to this, instead of me reading off a list or taking other people's thoughts, etc. So I just want to be honest with you. On this episode, we're going to cover how you transport your kayak, different kayaks, and comfort. So let's start talking about the way you transport a kayak. There is so many different ways. I covered it all on my channel. I've used trailers. I've done rooftop product called Will I Loader from Burley Pro to get on top of my ladder rack. I've done the back of my pickup, and I've modified about 5 trailers. So I've pretty much used a trailer to transport my kayak. Now, if you have a car, you can get it figured out, or there is a way to transport it on your car with having some roof racks. Now, the kayaks themselves, the one I'm sitting in right now, the Hobie PA14, I have 2 of them, this and the New Canoe Unlimited. They're very heavy kayaks. Can you get it on top of a car? Yes, but you're gonna have to be physically able to do that or have some kind of mechanism to get it up there, or you're going to be going fishing with a few people that you guys can pick it off and put it on. So it is possible to transport your kayak via car, but the best way to transport a kayak, just like a boat, is having a pickup truck. So if you have a pickup truck, it makes it a lot easier. You can throw it in the bed of your truck, you can utilize a trailer, you can utilize a ladder rack, roof rack, whatever you want to call it. You know, there's a whole bunch of different ones out there. So that's the start. You know, transporting your kayak, I guess you could say it can be a little harder than transporting a boat because you're physically moving these things around. Now, you have trailers, like I had the on-the-water trailer before, and you can just wet launch that. So you're really not handling the kayak, but it's not cheap to do it that way. You know, if you're on a budget, you're going to want to find a way to, within your budget, transport your kayak or save up to get what you need to transport it in an easier way. But you can always get the kayak to the water, but it's not as easy as transporting a boat, where it's always on the trailer. You can motor off, you can motor on. There's new trailers coming out. I think FTK, Fish Texas Kayak Trailer or something like that. You know, JT has one, Fishing with Gramps. He's making it that you can, if you have a motor, you can drive right up on it. But in one way or another, you're still handling a kayak. Now, if you get a less expensive kayak and you just want to get out in the water, they're very super light. You can easily throw those on top of a car and go out with a paddle and get out in the water and fish, or just get out kayaking in general to get on the water. There's a lot of pros and cons to moving your kayak around. It depends if you are a bigger male, you know, or a smaller female. It can be very difficult to get the kayaks moved around unless you go with your partner or whatever to do that. But that's, I would say, one con of kayak fishing. Now, everything I talked to you guys about, the bad side of it, the pros outweigh the cons. I've been at this now for 7 years. If I didn't like it or really hated transporting a kayak or kayak fishing, I wouldn't be doing it, guys. So the pros do outweigh the cons, I can tell you that much. My opinion, I like trailers just because I'm back to an enclosed trailer and I like to keep everything pretty much with me and not have to like put it away in my garage or, you know, put it in my truck where it can get broken, etc. I like to keep everything in one contained unit and be able to take other stuff with me as well. I'm not going to get into the whole reason why I have an enclosed trailer. There's a whole video on that you guys can go watch, but you have to have a truck. So that's one con to transporting your kayak, is you have to have a truck to make it enjoyable enough that you guys want to continue doing this. Like I said, you can do it off a car, but it can be difficult if you want to get into true fishing kayaks just because of the weight of them. You can stick with kayak fishing with an inexpensive sit-in style kayak, and we'll get into a little bit more of that as I get into some of the different kind of kayaks. You can get away with a car and do that, but you really need to have a truck to make it easier on yourself. So I guess you could say that's a con. If you don't have a truck, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. I use a trailer. You can rooftop it. you can put it in the bed of your truck. If you put it in the bed of your truck, it's an easy slide out, but you're still handling the kayak to get to the water. You need a set of wheels or a cart to get your kayak to the water to make it easier. Or if you're with multiple people, you both can carry it to the water. So you can say transporting and maneuvering your kayak is a con of kayak fishing, or it can be based on your setup. Let's get into a different couple kinds of kayaks. The one I'm on right now is a sit on top. So I still have a little bit of a deeper gunnel, I guess you could say, in the Hobie, but you're sitting on top. It keeps you elevated. You get more of a view when you're fishing, and it's definitely more stable than a sit-in kayak. You know, sit-in kayak is those inexpensive ones you can get at the big box stores where you actually sit inside and you lean one way or you lean the other way, and it's very tippy. These fishing kayaks are made to stand up, be comfortable, and be able to be on the water for a long period. The sit-in style kayaks, you know, the less expensive kayaks have cheaper seats, are not as comfortable. It's good for a couple hour trip, but after a couple hours, usually your back hurts, you're uncomfortable, you're jammed inside of the kayak, and it just doesn't make it enjoyable, and you may not want to continue kayak fishing. So if you can afford a higher end or a more expensive fishing kayak, if that's what you really want, now you just want to get into kayaking, do it. Save up the money. Don't just keep stepping your way up because you're going to spend more money than you want. I never stepped my way up. I went for the most expensive kayak I could afford right from the beginning, and that made it super enjoyable right from the get-go and never made me look back at any time. I've had boats, I've had multiple boats, and I still come back to the kayak. I actually bought a brand new boat. After 6 months, I sold it. I mean, you know, I was super excited to have that boat and be able to take my family out, but I like kayak fishing better, and we end up selling the boat, and now we have multiple kayaks, and I can bring my family out with me still. Having a kayak does bring down the cost over having a boat, but it can still be expensive as well. I got a lot of money invested into kayaks. I really don't want to tell you how much, but I'm going to tell you. 2 kayaks, motors, and a trailer, and all my gear, fish finder and everything. I have $20,000 invested into kayak fishing. Right there, it tells you how much I love this, how much I love it more than having a boat. My boat cost 4 times the amount of that, and I still came back to a piece of plastic. It's a different experience, a whole different way of being on the water. It's a way of therapy. You know, being on the boat is therapy too. Being on the water for most people, one way or the other, whether you're kayak fishing, surfing, kayaking, or just sitting by the beach, is a way of therapy for most of us. And that's why we do this sport. Being close to the water, moving at a slower rate, seeing things more than you do when you're on a boat makes it that much more enjoyable. But there is cons to it. You know, you're moving a lot slower than being on a boat. The wind affects you. We'll get into a whole nother thing about wind and how I keep myself positioned in the wind, another video. You move slower, the wind affects you, waves affect you, and it can be a little bit more dangerous than being in a boat, but that's a whole nother subject. Your kayaks, you have your sit-in kayak, you have your sit-on-top kayak, you can motorize it. The Hobie's pedal-driven, fin-driven, where you just push back and forth. You have pedal kayaks that you can do instant reverse, instant forward. Comfort all depends on your seat. On this, I have a kayak cushion. There's a lot of videos out there that cover the kayak cushion. I never used to use the kayak cushion until 2019, but once I've gotten it, I haven't looked back. You want to keep your seat, you want to keep, you know, yourself positioned upright. You don't want to be leaning back because you're putting strain on your back. You want to sit almost vertical. At first it may feel a little awkward, but you always want to sit vertical, like almost straight up and down. Yes, you may not be as stable sitting higher up, but these kayaks, I can adjust this seat down and get it even lower if the water gets rough. But you want to sit vertical is your best way of being comfortable. Kayak cushion also makes cush bars, they call them, which is like a lumbar support. Now this Hobie seat has built-in lumbar support, and every manufacturer makes different seats. Chad Hoover actually just covered his because he uses Bonafide a lot, and there's a couple little tricks he showed on those seats how to get them more comfortable. And to the comfort aspect of it, kayak fishing or kayaks in general may not be for all of you out there. you are confined to a smaller space. You're not on a boat where you can stand, you can sit, you can walk around. You can move around down these kayaks, you can sit, you can stand, you can spin around, but you're not walking back and forth. So you are confined to a smaller area. And for a lot of people, that may be bad because they have bad, issues with their hips, their back. They get a lot of, pressure points on their sciatic nerves, and that pain just comes up their back, and after like a half an hour they're in so much pain. So that's the cons of being on a kayak as far as comfort, because it's not for everybody. You may have issues sitting in a seat for a long period of time, so it may not be for you. You have to work on whatever seat that you have with your kayak. It may not be comfortable right out of the box. You have to play with the adjustments. There's straps that bring the incline and the recline. You got to try different positions. You got to try the cushion. You got to try, maybe even putting a towel underneath your butt. There is ways to improve the comfort of the kayak, but it may not be for everybody. That's all I can say. At first, there's times I'm out here, and at first I was comfortable on the Hobie seat, but after a couple trips out, I did get a little bit uncomfortable, but I just made some adjustments and I was okay. So don't let that one or two trips going out of being uncomfortable sway you away from kayak fishing, because I'm telling you, this is very, very enjoyable. If it wasn't, I wouldn't do it. But if you can't sit in a kayak, unfortunately, it may not work out for you. So just think about that before you purchase a kayak. If you have a hard time now sitting in a seat, you may not want to even spend any money and be upset that it's uncomfortable, but you still have to try it if you want to get into kayak fishing. So there's give and take. You got to really think about it. Are you able to sit on a kayak for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours and be happy doing this and be comfortable? Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to want to continue kayak fishing, and you're going to spend money that you regret. My pointers from this first episode is: think about how you're going to get your kayak to the water, how you're going to transport it from your house, how you're going to get it from your car or your truck to the water. Are you going to be able to do it by yourself? Are you going to need help? Kayaks, you got your sit-in style, you got your sit on top. Are you going to want to do this for a long period of time? Are you going to stick with it? If you are, spend the money on the higher end kayak, and don't go waste your money on inexpensive kayaks, because you're going to upgrade and you're going to end up spending more money anyway. So it's worth it for you to wait a month, 2, even 6 months if you have to save up to get a highly recommended kayak. I covered this before. When you go out and purchase a kayak, you have to water test it. If you do not water test it, you're going to regret it, because you may get in it, it may not be stable as you thought it was, and you're not going to feel safe, and you're going to not want to do this. You're going to want to return that. You're going to want to upgrade to a different kayak. So you have to water test your kayak to really feel that's the one for you. There is places out there you may have to drive to go do it. If you just wanted to see if you like this, and you want to go get that $300 kayak sit-in style, I'm not going to persuade you not to, but it's just going to end up collecting dust if you like it and sit in your garage. If you buy a higher end kayak and you don't like it, trust me, you're going to be able to sell it. In this market today, kayak fishing has not died down as much as people think it has. It was big when COVID hit, but if you do regret this, you will be able to sell that higher end kayak, trust me. You might not be able to get almost what you paid for it, but you're gonna get pretty damn close. And then last pointer is comfort. You got to make sure that you are comfortable in your kayak. That comes down to water testing. Go try that seat that's on that kayak. Only way you're going to be able to do that is if you water test it and you're on the water with it, even if it's just for a half an hour. So I hope you guys like this first episode of the good, the bad, and ugly of kayak fishing. We are going to do as many as it takes to cover everything. Like I said, I'm not scripting any of this, so it's going to be a lot of me rambling off, and I may get distracted and start talking about something else. I can promise you that the pros outweigh the cons. But let's get all the cons out of the way first. So as always, guys, I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Be safe on the water, and I'll catch you guys on the water. See you soon.